Welcome to Prepper Talk Radio Live. This is our weekly Wednesday live broadcast from high up in the Rocky Mountains. Welcome, everybody. What up, all my peeps in the chat? You guys, this is the funnest part of our week. We get to chat with you guys, talk to you guys, get your instant feedback on tonight's episode. We do this every Wednesday, so make sure you join, tune in, and don't tune out. Shane, Paris, how you guys doing tonight?
Excellent.
So much excitement, it's just can't even contain it. Guys,
you know those memes where they're like, when they have that kayaker just going crazy on the rapids, he's like just flipping and turning and twisting, and everybody's like, hey, how's it going? It's going great. And this is me going great. That woohoo, life is just giving me what
yeah, go on for the ride.
I'm along for the ride, baby. Let's go.
If we're talking memes, then it's more like that dog in the break room that's all on fire, and he's like, "This is fine. This is fine.
This is fine."
That's America right now.
The animated dog, the cartoon dog,
animated dog, not a real dog. Please keep your pets safe.
We're going to talk about that later.
We can talk about that again later, but yeah, please definitely keep them on a short leash. But guys, welcome to the show. We are Prepper Talk Radio. We are the podcast for the prepared. Our goal, our mission is to help you to live free without fear. Fear comes from being unprepared. Fear comes from the unknown. And the more you can be prepared, the more you can be aware, the less you need to fear. So tonight, I want to remind you that our episode is brought to you by our good friends over at AMP3. They are fantastic. They've given us a discount code, Prepper Talk. That'll get you 15% off of your first aid kits. Everything over there is American made. It's fantastic. It is robust and tough and designed by a former United States Navy medic who became an emergency room doctor, David Pruitt. He's fantastic. He also teaches ham. I don't know if you guys have checked him out, but go over to amp-3.net and you're just going to absolutely love them. I've got their first aid kit in my car. It goes with me everywhere we go. So check them out. Also, we just talked about power outages, and one of the things you just don't want to be without when you need it is the tool that's going to take care of that condition, that situation, that problem. So check out our friends over at survivalfrog.com. Use the code PrepperTalk10. Yes, it's changed. It's now PrepperTalk10, and you get 10% off anything you buy over there. They've got power supplies. They've got just about everything you could think of on the basic sides, and they've got the best dang survival meat that I've ever stored and eaten, and it's delicious. They've got beef, they've got hamburger, and they've got chicken, and it's delicious. We made chicken tacos the other day with that.
Really?
I need to get more cans of that. Yeah, I probably should be saving this for the apocalypse, but I kind of feel like the apocalypse started a few years ago, and it's just winding into a bigger and bigger storm. Does anyone else relate to that? Is it just me? I'm fine. I'm fine. It's fine.
Yeah, no? It's fine. Everything's burning to the ground. It's fine. Well, I was just going to say that if you're in one of these areas that's getting hit with a lot of these immigrants, and you're surviving, or you've got some boots on the ground information, hit us up, let us know. And so we can bring it to the rest of everybody real time, as much as real time as possible. So
amen to that.
Yeah. So, I was thinking, about this topic and it's always the frog in the pot of boiling water, right? What temperature is the water right now? That's my reality check. What temperature is the water right now? Is it actually boiling? If it's boiling, can I feel it? Did it just get so hot that I'm comfortable? Or is it uncomfortable enough to where I'm actually looking for the source of the fire and preparing and getting out of the way? So that's kind of my thought on the reality check topic, is what's really going on out there. Can we really know? That's a big question. What we're being told, is it true? I mean, what are the facts? What's true? What's a lie? What's meant to manipulate us? What's propaganda? And so that's the hard part, I think, about the reality check. And it's difficult to say because I'm in my own bubble, right? I'm in my own little world.
Yeah, I think on the political front, one of the big reality checks that I think we just heard about was the whistleblower over at ABC. It was talking about how the debate was completely staged and prepared for, and it was like, that's a kind of a scandal, actually. You can't have that kind of thing happening and trust that the person who's going to be potentially running the largest country in the world has some capacity to actually do it. If they're being told what to say and how to say it, and the questions are already like pre-programmed, it's like, I wish my job was that easy. Like, can somebody just do all the work for me and then I just show up and I get all the money? Like, that's what I want to, right? That seems like that. Anyways, and then on the I don't know. There's so much, and then on the economic side of things, the stock market is up right now really well. I'm sure, in because of the Fed dropping the rate first time in the last four years or so, half a point, which is pretty cool, because that means that one of the things that means for those that are wanting to buy a house is that mortgage rates are going to actually start coming down a little bit, or at least more than they are already.
Yeah, and they have been coming
So
down.
if you go back 5 months. So I was just going to say real quick,
No,
you go back 5 months ago, 3 months ago, I actually talked about this happening. It was supposed to happen in September, and it happened in September.
Nice.
So I'm not right very often. I just have to say booyah, because I was finally right.
Mm-hmm.
I feel good. I have to. Okay, now it's over. Now,
give
Shane,
it credit
you were
where
gonna
it's
say
due, bro.
something really
You take that
much
one,
more
100%.
valuable.
Well, I was just going to say about interest rates is that they've been coming down by themselves, right? And because that's just natural market forces, and the Fed shouldn't be doing. They just cut rates half a point, or 50 basis points. So half a percent, and I don't think that's going to make much of a difference to mortgage rates. It's going to be the market that's going to continue to drive them, and I think they're going to be headed back up because inflation is going to come back up because of lower interest rates. Just leave things alone,
Yes,
and it'll fix itself.
Well,
that's
rates
part
have
of
already been dropping for the last few months.
Yeah,
it's not been a lot, but it's interesting to see the Fed's finally like, oh, we better do something on our end, right? I feel like their drop is reactionary, but you're right. It is going to be a short-lived dip in rates.
Well, I think it's all part of that whole idea that this is an election year. And if they can hold off and make everything look great right up to it, they can claim that it was them that made it look great. Hey, keep us on in the leadership, because look how well we're doing. We don't want to ruin this. Let's just keep going. I'm like, dude, it's all propped up. It's all Potemkin Village right now. It's all just a house of cards. This thing's going to fall any minute now, especially if the setup was, what we learned about from the whole debate was a setup. It's like, what else are you going to set up for us to? So I think it's important to realize that, okay, first of all this stuff is really good to know, but does it affect our day-to-day life? Not so much. Keep going, keep doing your thing, keep living life, keep being a great husband, a great wife, a great father, a great mother, keep being a great child, keep your family focused, but recognize that, hey, there's some forces out there that are doing some fuzzy math, to keep this economy on going.
Floating, whatever you want to call it, hanging by a thread.
Well, I mean, another indicator that things are going, I mean, it's kind of lagging. I don't know if it's lagging indicator, but it's definitely an indicator. Silver is over $30 at spot price right now.
Again,
I mean, that's the highest it's been in a long time, or it's as high as it's been in a long time. And gold's over 2,500. So
26.
There's some reality to, how the dollar is still being eroded, even though we're seeing or hearing, oh, everything's great. The economy's great. Everything's moving the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're definitely indicators of things that are happening under the surface, because obviously we don't hear really what's going on. And I don't think everybody does. And you think of those who are in markets, they kind of have their blinders on, only look at certain things, and they're not seeing everything that's going on. So it's definitely hard to get a big picture of, especially the markets. Those who are the ultra wealthy, they tend to know more about what's going on. So it's kind of good to watch them and see what they're doing. But
yeah.
For me, I just choose to stay out of it. So
definitely those who are manipulating the markets are the ones who know the most about what's going on in those markets, right? And we watch a lot of that. There's this intercommunication that goes to our senators, who seem to be the best investors since Warren Buffett. If you watch their stock picks, they're just fantastic, right? But I'm out of the market myself. I won't get back into it. I don't have any desire to get back into it.
Mhm.
I'm firmly in the position that my stock market moves could never outperform what the scriptures tell me is going to happen. That's where I'm at
Amen.
at this point in my life.
Yeah.
Say that again, Shane.
No, you're totally right. I totally agree with that.
I think I don't know if you know this, Scott, but you mentioned about look at what the senators are doing. There's actually an app, and I can't remember what it's called right now. So maybe if you're listening and you're in on the live with us, and you know what it's called, but there's an actual app where this guy went through and he actually has tracked through some algorithm to all of the picks of the senators, and then he will then make notifications to the people who download the app. Hey, invest in this because so-and-so just sold or just did whatever, you know what I mean? So it's kind of a funny, I was listening to a podcast not too long ago where somebody was like, yeah, we came up with this app that follows all the senators and congressmen's stock choices and purchases. And so people can actually literally follow along and buy and sell exactly the same thing that they're doing. And I thought what a great idea.
Well, it's funny too, because it's like, if you're going to do that, look also at what they're buying. How many of them are buying bunkers? How many of them are buying survival gear, food storage? Like
Gold.
It's been happening more and more visibly the last 5 to 6 years. I think I've seen more and more elites, throw air quotes around that, buying their survival bunkers and all that, which to me it's funny because you don't buy a bunker just to have a bunker in case the end of the world. We know things are changing. The world's not ending. The world as we know it is changing. Right? The elite's power, corruption, and control is going to be dismantled and removed. However, living a prepared life, living a self-reliant life comes with so many benefits, so many advantages over living a fearful life. A fearful life and a reactionary falafel. I don't know. But I just look at it and I laugh because it's like, from a scriptural perspective, and I don't want to get too far down that side, but it's like the wicked will look for places to hide under rocks in the last days, and
That's in Isaiah,
right? Dude, that dude holds no punches. He pulls no punches whatsoever. And I'm like, do I want a bunker? No, I would much prefer to live above ground, have my garden, have my fruit grove, and live in the sight of God, and have no fear that way. But yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. Like, we could reality check. This is the thermometer for the frogs in the boiling water, right? That's what this really is. And yeah, I definitely feel like the water's boiling, and that's what I'm trying to get out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it looks like well, Eric, I don't know what the rest of Eric WW277 says that a walkie-talkie, and that's what happened in Lebanon. I think he mentioned what happened in Lebanon.
Pagers yesterday.
The walkie-talkies blew up and injured 400 people.
Yeah.
That's horrible. I know what's going on. Like, I know that I just looked it up real quick, and Lebanon and Israel. I mean, there's so much tension right now that it can go at any minute, where people are talking about having that kickoff. And there's just that whole part of the world right now is so hot. I really just feel for the citizens of those countries and those areas, because, the innocent people are the ones who are the real victims, and the people who are perpetrating all over there are just, they need to, they'll get what's coming to them, I hope.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, no doubt. So, long time ago, years, I don't remember, but I have a blog. I used to write a lot. I haven't done that for a long time, but I do remember writing about one of my biggest concerns at a certain point will be when, obviously, rule of law is declining and gangs start to take over, right? And people who are desperate to join gangs in order to survive. I mean, that's part of, I think, what's still going to happen. But I never would have thought that it was going to be these illegals who have been crossing the border, who bring their gangs with them, who are gangs themselves, who are starting to take over. And so I'm already starting to see what I thought would happen, but on a different level, different scale, a different way than I thought might happen. So, testing the temperature of the water that way, it's getting, and of course I don't see it in my neck of the woods. I live in a nice suburban area. It's I'm just not seeing it unless I go to the big city, right? Air quotes, big city, and then I can start to get some hints, some glimpses and such. So whether we can actually, how much we could trust our news sources is, again, it's a concern. But I tend to always err on the side of caution and believe, okay, at least some of this is true, and which means it's going to continue to get worse. So keep my eyes open and prepare for that. And how do I prepare? That's, something we probably shouldn't talk about here, right? We might get censored here, but it's something to keep in mind, as part of that, my long list of temperature testing topics here.
So it's funny, like, as we're talking about this, it made me think of Rosie O'Donnell. Yeah, she used to be on The View, the comedian.
Rosie was she on The View?
Was she on The View? Like maybe 4 years ago, she was on The View, and they got rid of her.
Okay.
But she, like, the last thing that she said before she was gone was basically, she's like, if you really want to know what's going on, you have to watch the news outside of America, because in America, our news is controlled by 4 corporations. Like, she's just like unloads. And she's like, our news is controlled by 4 corporations with one goal, one mission, and it has none of your well-being in mind. And she
it's Project Mockingbird,
right? And I just think of what Shane just said, and I'm like, yeah, you can't just hope that your news source is right, or that you're hearing the right story, or they're not even reporting on these things.
Yeah.
They bought TikTok. They forced TikTok to sell so they could control it, right? Because that was a free speech platform for a little while. And what other ones that are around that sometimes have truth, sometimes don't, but you've got to weed through a lot and use discerning judgment to know if something is legitimate or complete fluff and hyperbole.
Yeah, one thing that tends to convince me that they are that the things are true, because they're trying to cover them up, they're trying to hide them, and so forth. So that convinces me that a lot of this stuff is at least somewhat true. So
one thing that I just
more you hear them say,
going
"Don't
along
look
with what
here.
you're saying, Shane."
Look over there.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the things that goes along with what you're saying, Shane, is that I didn't, who would have thought a couple weeks, maybe even a couple months ago, that Aurora, Colorado would have gangs from Venezuela kicking down doors, collecting rent, like totally taking over. Like landlords can't even get in there. Yeah. I mean, they literally have taken over. And I saw a video actually of somebody, they were trying to kick someone's door in, and that person had a Second Amendment facility in their apartment with them, and those dudes ran as soon as bullets started flying. So I thought that was pretty awesome. So there's other places right now, and I know that I watched a news story that had somebody that they were being interviewed in Springville, right? And we know what's happening in Springville, or supposedly what's happening allegedly. And the guy was like, "Oh, I don't know anything about anything with animals and anything like that. I've never seen anything." And then you go to like the real boots on the ground people that are living in Springville, and they're like, "Yeah, you don't see cats and dogs running around and out in the open anymore," because they're gone. And so the reality is that you got to find these underground, so to speak, sources of news to really see what's going on. And I don't know, X, Twitter, whatever it is now, they have a pretty decent, they're still at least kind of somewhat free speech. TikTok does have some freer stuff. I still hear some good stuff. Scott, you send me stuff all the time on there that's relatively, they're really able to say it a little more clearly. So I'm sure that the regulations, I'm sure the communications or FCC or whatever is going to get in there and do their damage. But for now, those are some of the better places, I think.
It's interesting because, like, you can pop onto any social media and you can kind of see what their whole mission is, right? I hop on Facebook and I'm being sold stuff all day. Same thing on Instagram, being sold stuff all day. And it's all like big marketing plan stuff. And it's like, oh man, I'm not seeing news anymore unless it's pro one candidate, right?
Right.
but I'm not seeing any normal news. I go on to X, which I don't do very often, but then I'll see stuff occasionally. A lot of different narratives and different things. I'll go on TikTok and I'll see it's TikTok's like this hodgepodge of crazy, and you never know what's going to pop up next, which is weird. But then I've looked at Truth, and I've looked at Clapper, and Clapper's just garbage. There's nothing good on there. But there's different places. But then I'll hop on BBC and read the news sometimes, or I'll look in Australian news and look what's going on over there. But it's fascinating what we aren't being told about what's going on behind closed doors, so to speak. We have been completely blind to the real truth of what's going on in our governments, what's going on state by state, city by city. Like, it's just been so compartmentalized that we really don't know how bad it could be or how good it could be, because the narrative is what the narrative is. You guys have probably seen that the video that surfaced a couple of years ago. It's like they're showing the news reporting on something, and they said one phrase, and then they show another news station saying the same phrase.
Yeah.
Another one, like 20 different news stations. Then all of a sudden there's like 80 news stations on your screen, and they're all repeating the same thing. They sound like a choir in harmony.
That's Project Mockingbird.
And that is 100% Project Mockingbird. And so we've got to be aware as best we can be of what's going on. We need to talk about it. We need to communicate with each other and find out, okay, what's really real or not. Like, I'll reach out to some of my contacts when I hear a weird story, and I'm like, is that really real? So I'll reach out and ask them. I'm like, hey, you're in the know. So did this really happen? Is this how this is? And sometimes they're like, yeah, that's complete BS. Here's what's really going on. And other times they're like, I'm in the dark on this one. They won't tell me. And so you've got to check the places that you've verified and vetted that are true and honest. And even then, they might not know. But at least try, at least check.
Here's something that I haven't heard anywhere else in the news. Does anyone know what the budget deficit was last month for August? For July, it was like 248 billion deficit. Did you hear what the August deficit is? 381 billion deficit.
It's getting worse.
It's getting worse, and I think it'll continue to get worse. But nobody's talking about it, and the candidates aren't talking about any spending cuts. They're talking about cutting taxes, which would be great. I don't think that's going to happen. But I also see a lot of talk about property taxes going up all around the freaking country, and I'm seeing it. At my property here, my bug out location, proposed taxes going up significantly, and so. It's
what's crazy is that let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 73 billion dollars was added to the national debt from September 13th to September 17th.
Oh, in less than a week.
Yeah, 73 billion. Look, because that's assuming that national debt at national debt on Twitter is accurate.
Okay,
I would assume it is, but that's a lot of money in a week's time, in 4 days.
Could you imagine if your household was running on that kind of debt structure? How fast everything would be shut down and shut off, and you'd be cut off.
Unless you can print money,
right?
Mm-hmm. But we can't. Your own currency.
So we're liable, but they're not. That's the ruling class mindset and methodology. Like, we've been under a tyrannical state for quite some time. Bruce just pointed this out. Like, I'm going to share this. Bruce, he says he works as EMS in a small town in Utah and appears to be pretty sheltered and safe, but it's amazing how much gang activity, as well as just bad people doing really bad things, really is. Like, we don't know oftentimes what's really going on, and that's by their design. But when we do find out, we've got to do something about it. Like Shane, you said, if you know that there's a fire, put the fire out. If you can control it, make a change, do something. And I think oftentimes we just put our heads down and we keep marching thinking, oh, things will get better. And there's a fine line, I think, especially for those of us who are religious and who are looking forward to the second coming. Like, oh, well, Jesus will take care of that when he comes. Yeah, he also told us we need to do what's right in the meantime.
we need to
And
do
is it
our
right
part.
to just back off and let bad happen. No, good men need to do good things. We need to stand up to evil.
Yeah. At least defend ourselves from the onslaught and spread truth. And the one thing that they say that evil, the one thing that evil needs to persist is for good men to do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so real. There's a lot of good men though that I'm working. I mean, our show hopefully is one show amongst the minis that are out there that is building light, because we recognize that look, crap's going to hit the fan and people in your life. Adversity happens. There's going to be accidents. There's going to be all kinds of things. Matter of fact, I was just on a phone call today or yesterday. I was on a call Tuesday morning. So today's Wednesday. So it was Tuesday morning, and I was on a call with a bunch of other business owners, and somebody said, my son just got hit by a car. Sorry, I was late. I'm like, you're still on the phone. Like, why did you even get on the call if your son was just hit by a car? Like, things happen to you in life, and it's tough and it's hard. And so we're not trying to get away from that or say that there's all these evil people doing stuff. Well, we want to bring hope. Like, hey, look, yeah, life is tough, but the more prepared you are for the hardships that will come, the less effect those hardships and adversities will have upon you when they come and when they arrive. It's not a matter of if, it's definitely when. You're going to have adversity. You're going to have hardships. You're going to have things happen to you. There's crazy stuff going on in the world right now. There are evil people that are working diligently to destroy anything that is good. And their actually purpose is to do it. And so that's all the more reason for good people to stand up and say, look, no, this is the line. We draw the line. You shall not pass. To take a little bit of, Gandalf there, we got to tell the Balrogs, you shall not pass.
Well, and in our lives, it's like Lori brought this up. What can an average American do? We live in Utah, the three of us, and our legislators right now are trying to pass a law and trying to get us to vote in a law that would allow them to do what they want and create their own laws without having to go through proper channels. And most of Utah's not talking about this. And if we don't do something about it and oppose that, then we'll have done nothing. That's what the average American can do, is they can fight those things, right? We can stand up for our neighbors. We can stand up for what is right. We can, if we see something in our vicinity going down that's wrong, we can say something and we can do something. Just a few weeks ago at one of the local grocery stores, there was an attempt of someone taking a child or a lady, and one guy yelled, and all of a sudden everybody turned and started yelling. No one even had to walk over there, and the guy let go and ran off, right? They chased him and they ended up finding him and catching him. But like, there's stories like that are happening more and more frequently because people are becoming more and more aware and actually trying to do good in their community. That's where we can start. And that we need to be a local voice to help our neighbors actually do better things and help keep them protected and safe, right? Because we've all seen no one else is going to keep us safe. We've got to do it ourselves. We've got to get our community stronger. We've got to get our voices louder and get them heard.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, just typing a note here.
Right. And you may think, oh, well, my vote doesn't matter anymore. In some places, it might not. In some cases, it might not. But grassroots still work. I've seen it.
There's a lot more that you can do, especially when you work together and you work with other people, get involved wherever you can. There's there's a lot of great societies out there that are, Hillsdale College, John Birch Society. You can get involved with a lot of those different things. A big thing too is just to wake up to it and become aware and do a little research and figure things out, and then help others kind of wake up to what's going on. And then, help people. Earlier, somebody said the best way to be prepared is to get right with God. And I think that's a key element to all of this. We do need to have and learn physical preparation. We do need to, we do need to learn how to fight and defend ourselves. But at the same time, we also need to learn how to really see what's going on and not let things continue to get worse on our watch.
Yeah, I think the main thing that I should be doing that most of us can do is to help wake others up to our awful condition, our awful situation.
Mhm.
For them to see what they've been sold, how they've been raised their entire life. Like ever since, when I was born, 72, the world was, it was lost. The system was gone at that point. Gold was the dollar was off the gold standard, and the system I think even far before that. I'm sure some of you will argue with me, but and I have felt bad for years that I had been so naive and so ignorant and so blind to the truth and what's really going on, and those who are who control us, who are over us, who are our masters. I use air quotes. And the key thing, the most important thing I feel I can do is to help wake people up to see those, and then they can take action. Then they can do something. If that doesn't happen, there's no change. Nothing can happen. No change can happen unless that happens first.
Mm-hmm.
And there are definitely different levels, different extremes of waking up, from the flat earthers to the moon landing deniers to the 9/11. There's so many different levels that you can be on. And each person will find their way to the truth if they're really seeking it. So that's my key, is just to really find truth. That's what I'm trying to do.
I like that. It's funny because there was a day this week, a holiday. I don't know. It wasn't a holiday. You know how there's like days like Mother's Day, Father's Day, Valentine's Day, all those days, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's like today's, as we speak, it's National Hamburger Day.
Made
and
up
there's a lot
holiday.
of news is all over it the last few days. You know what yesterday was?
Constitution Day.
Mm.
And
you got it.
Yeah.
But
Yesterday was Constitution Day. I carry this with me. This is my Constitution. I copy. This is interesting. This is one of the most violated articles in the Constitution. Article 3 talks about judicial powers. And it's interesting, in Article 3, Section 1, it says the trial of all crimes, except in the case of impeachment, shall be by jury. And such trial shall be held in the state where the said crimes shall have been committed. How many times is that upheld? How many times are you sent to court to defend yourself in court for anything they call a crime, like, I don't know, a traffic stop, traffic violation? There's no jury, right? Well, it's because no crime was actually committed, right? There's so many things that our current government is skirting around. They're not observing the Constitution, and I challenge everyone listening to this, go and read your Constitution today. Take 15, 20 minutes to get through the whole thing. It'll probably take you 8. But read it. Read the amendments. Get used to them. And then go out and exercise. Exercise your constitutional right.
And get yourself arrested and wind up in jail. I'm just saying that's kind of the inevitable outcome of fighting against tyranny, right? Is making yourself stand out and get the attention of those who you don't want attention from, right? So that's, I'm not saying that's
a crazy activist on it,
right?
But stand up for what's right,
right? No, and in your own little world, at least, right? In your own home, in your neighborhood, in your community, absolutely. Go out, going out and being a crazy guy, and I'm all about, or I'm all for constitutional carry. Defying tyrants, standing up to the police who do things wrong, but you get that cop who just wants to exercise his power and throw you in jail, and you got to find a balance. I think there are some people out there that are doing that, and great on them. They're very brave people that do that kind of stuff. I see videos all the time. That's not me. That's not for my family. But there's definitely things we can do. And I think, like I said before, is knowing truth and implementing that truth in your own family, in your own sphere of influence. And then at some point, I think there will be a critical moment when we'll all have to stand up but it'll only work if we all stand up together, if that makes sense. And
Oh, totally.
we just got to know when that time is, right?
Well, there's the whole thing about the I don't know if it's called A Bug's Life, I think was the movie.
Mm-hmm.
The crickets,
Yeah.
once the
Yeah,
ants realized that they could
The grasshoppers.
band together, they could take the crickets out, and they did eventually. The crickets kind of intimidated them with their size, but they realized that the ants completely outnumbered them, and just ended up. I don't want to be a spoiler alert if you haven't seen Bug's Life in a while, but or haven't seen it at all. But the reality is you're right, Shane. The more of us that become awake and become aware, the more light. That's one of the things that I really believe, that a lot of people want to go fight against the darkness, and that's fine. Go fight against the darkness. There's some reality to that. But if you build light, build goodness, create more good things in the world, the darkness will flee from that automatically. The dark flees from light. So the more light we can produce, whether that's by being kind to one another, by sending good messages on social media, just flooding the world with good, I think that we're going to start to see something. Now, I'm not going to say stick your head in the sand, because when a gang member from Aurora, Colorado comes knocking on your door, you need to take care of your family, and you need to be ready for that. And if you have to move, you need to be able to get up and go and get out of those situations. And so, or if you have, if your dog goes missing in Springville, you need to know where to go to find it, and maybe protect it if you love your animals. So there's some things that you've got to do to prepare, and there will come a time. I'm not saying like when darkness encroaches, you've got to be able to stand up and say, "You shall not pass." But in the meantime, build light wherever you are. Build defenses. Build your storage. Build your reserves, your cash reserves, your food reserves, your water reserves. Build those things so that when disaster hits, you've already got something built.
And along those same lines, there will come a day when we all be tried, and I think we can all see it coming to where the most persecuted group out there are us white boys, us constitutional Christians, however you want to label us, are going to be even more and more
Persecuted.
Yes, thank you. That's the right word. And so by building, doing exactly what you're saying, Paris, building that truth and that light right now, when it comes to that point when you will have to make that decision to either deny Christ or not, because that's what it'll come down to, I think, right? At that point you will say, no, you can take my head instead, right? Because I think that is, that's what essentially the scriptures say is, are you willing to die for Christ? And I think it takes a lot more than just saying right now, yeah, when that moment comes, of course I won't deny Christ. Of course I'll just, be beheaded or whatever the consequence is. But really, will we? If are you going to deny him 3 times before what's the scripture there, right? Paris, I'm sure you know better than I do. But even the disciples of Christ denied him.
Peter did, yeah.
Yeah, Peter, yeah, and but what are we going to do when it comes down to it? When it gets really difficult and really tough? Now is the time to strengthen yourself and to have that, call it a testimony, and have to have that light to when that difficult time comes, that you're not going to deny Christ at that point. So
that's the problem we have in the world right now, is no one has, I shouldn't say no one, many lack a foundation on anything. Most of all, not on truth. Just basic, simple truths that up is up, down is down, right? That a dog is a dog, a cat is a cat, a man is a man, a woman is a woman. Like the simple truths, we're losing grip on reality and replacing it with a false theology of accepting whatever someone else tells us, accepting untruth as truth. The other part of the problem is as a society, we've been lied to, and we've been lied to so much that we've believed the lies, and now it's hard to convince us of those lies
Mm-hmm.
until we start waking up and seeing the truth. And then we're all faced with the question of, oh, crap, what do I do now? And I think the answer is very deeply personal for each one of us. It's like, for some of us, it is to become a revolutionary. For some of us, it is to become a rebel. For some of us, it is to quietly take care of all of our needs and our family's needs, right? And there's everything in between. I think it's a very deeply personal question and answer session you've got to go through. But for me and my house, we've already made our decision.
Yeah.
And we will stand our ground on our beliefs, on our foundation. And the problem is we have a decay in morality in our nation. And because of that, we've lost our way. And unless we repent and change, that's what repentance is. Change, right? Change from wickedness to righteousness, change from untruth to truth, and start doing things right. We cannot fix things. But in our personal lives, we absolutely can fix things. Get as right as you can and
Going
accept
along
all
with
the blessings that come with that.
those things, Scott, John Adams said, one of our founding fathers says, the second president of the United States said, our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. And we talked about the Constitution in this episode. We've talked about, our religious faiths. And I'm not going to get into the details of each religion, because if you believe in Christ and you believe in the Bible, that's the foundation right there. And we can all agree on that, at least. And that's where we need to build from there. And I think that once we realize that we see the decay of the world, we see the gangs coming into these different cities, we see them coming across the border, we see the government making choices that they're making, we see leadership that, like in our state of Utah, there's actually some really serious shenanigans happening with our governor and the voting that's coming up here for us in our own state. And it's the good news is that there are people, thankfully, that are called, and whether they're called by God or did they just feel that, I just feel that, in them to go do it. They're making a difference. And I really like those kinds of people, and everybody's called to make a difference in their way, and just stand up, and whatever you're called to do, whatever you have you feel like you have a calling on you to do, don't shy away from that. Be strong in that, be faithful in that, and do it, because God needs your strengths wherever they are to stand and be unique and do what you have to do and what you've been called to do. And if it's to go and rally the troops and create a whole political movement, do it. If it's to support somebody doing that, do that. If it's to start a podcast talking about preparedness, do that. You know what I mean? Like whatever it is, do what you've been asked to do, because the world is crazy, and it's not going to get, it can get better, I think, individually for each people, as a person prepares, as they get really kind of, I think as they start to get temperate and really they breathe, and they just really kind of realize the serenity that they can get to when they have they are flush and good with God, then all the world can storm, and you can be the eye of the storm where it's totally calm inside of that storm. And that is possible. It's just not easy. And so that's where I'm seeking to find serenity even amongst the chaos.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of my final comments is going back to the temperature of the water that we're in. If we take all this into account, everything that I'm saying, to me, the water's boiling. We're already in it. It's serious right now. And I can see why a lot of people don't want to see that. They don't want to acknowledge that. They want to say, all is well. And because, for a lot of reasons. First of all, not being prepared, not having a clear vision of the future will cause you to fear. I think my vision's pretty clear. I mean, at least my path. And so I've eliminated that fear from my life, even though the water's boiling. I can't do anything about that water other than, get out of it, get out of the water altogether. Have I done that? I don't know. I got to get out of Babylon completely, I think, to do that.
Right.
I think we're all at varying levels of that, right?
Yeah.
The three of us, as well as all of us listening, like we're all at varying levels of trying to get that independence. In preparation for tonight, one of the comments that came through text as we were talking, I think Shane, you said this is, I'm going to build an ark. Like Noah, was that you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
You know, that's the ideal, right? We all, man, I wish God would give me all this power to go do that, and just I can't find any gopher wood. The only place I found it is in Florida, and that's far away. But the reality is this: it's like do what you can, have hope, live by what you believe, and good things will happen. I am a walking testament of that, because in times of absolute joblessness, we've gotten through. In times of being wrongfully incarcerated, we've gotten through. Like, blessings come by obedience. And to not get too preachy, man, I'm just happier living with nothing but living right.
Mm-hmm.
And as more things are taken away in this world, the more aligned I feel like I've gotten. Even now, like, it's going to get worse, yeah. But man, it's going to get better and better when the light starts shining. Let's all be that light. Let's all do our part to do better, and to hold the systems that we can accountable, hold them accountable.
Yeah, as much
Right?
as
To stand for truth and light, let's stand for truth and right. There are things we can do. You've probably felt something or thought something in your life like, man, I wish I could do this and maybe you can. Whatever that is, whatever that thought's been, whatever's weighed on you, maybe you can make a difference there. I would challenge you to see what you can do. Right? We all have different skills. We all have different abilities. We all have different ideals. Utilize what you can do, the gifts that you have, the strengths that you have to do better and to do more. That's my challenge to you. Any final thoughts? I know, Shane, you kind of wrapped it up, but any final thoughts from you guys?
Well, I was just going to say that there's an old saying that it's darkest right before the sun comes up. And I was scrolling through my social media earlier today, and there's a guy that I follow that's one of these guys who really helps personal development and, kind of motivational guy. And he said, the adversity usually hits right before growth is about to happen. And so don't shy away from adversity. Don't shy away from the darkness. Don't shy away from those things. Step up, be what you can do what you need to do, and realize that you probably have way more strength than you realize, and you can do it. You can really, there's days when I have things hit me and I'm like, man, there's no way I'm going to get through this. And then I realize, no, wait a minute. I've been through stuff before. I can do this. And you realize that it's not as bad. It's never as bad as it seems, but at the same time, it's maybe never as good as it seems. That's why you got to keep that even keel and just keep your head down, keep your shoulder to the wheel, and enjoy the journey. Don't be a destination addiction. Enjoy the journey. And I think that helps me anyways. I hope you realize most of all that the things I just said in the last wrap up are things that I need to hear for myself. And there's an old adage I heard many years ago: what goes through you sticks to you. So I'm trying to say good things more and more out of my mouth so that hopefully they stick to me. The vibration of my voice, saying those things will help my body's energy and anyways, I need it more than anybody. And I want you all to know that. I appreciate you guys listening. I appreciate you being part of our journey, part of our community. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
What's funny is you guys are in our thoughts and prayers. You really are. Like, I cannot tell you how grateful I am to have this group. There's been times where I'm like, I just can't do this anymore. And Shane and Paris are like, yeah, we can. And this is a service project as much as anything, right? We have sponsors and we love them, and we have affiliate links, and you guys help support the ongoingness of the channel. We are not by any means making a few bucks off this at all. I mean, it's just, it's to keep the lights on, and we appreciate you guys, but we think about you guys. We're grateful for you guys. We hope the best for you. And here's my final thought. As Paris was talking, as Shane was talking, I thought, wow, if you want to change your perspective, go find someone less fortunate than you and serve. Go find someone less fortunate than you and serve them. In my life, as I've struggled, as I've gone through adversity, sometimes when you're in the adversity, it's hard to go find someone to serve. You've got to make a conscious effort to get out of yourself and go do it, because even there's been times in my life where I've been in such bad place that I don't even know how to ask for help. And we think we can't, or that we shouldn't, because we have to be tough. We have to be strong and resilient and do this on our own.
Yeah.
And in reality, we were never intended to do it that way. We were always intended to do it together. So go find someone to serve, go find someone to help, go find someone to uplift and release the burdens that they're under. And I promise you that will improve the quality of your life. That is a simple thing you can do now that will help fight the system, because that will create so much light and so much good that it will be impossible for darkness to stick around. It will flee. And this has been a fun show. This has been a fun episode. We've talked about a lot of different things. We've gotten a little more spiritual than usual. But why else are you prepping if not for a better and brighter future?
Right.
Yeah. Amen to that.
So thank you everyone for participating tonight. Thank you for all that you do, and wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep on going. I'm going to sound dumb for a second. I'm willing to do that all the time, but my kids watch a show, and in that show, there's a silly character that just says, "Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming." It's the dumbest thing, but it's true. Keep moving forward. Every little step may seem like a monumentous thing to do, but you're doing it. And that's where growth happens. Thank you for tuning in, guys. Thank you for being part of the Prepper Talk Nation. Keep lighting up our group and giving us content and things that you want to know so we can bring it on air and help everybody else get better prepared, because they're thinking the same thing as you. Hang in there. Stay ready-minded. We love you guys.
See you next week. Thanks, guys.
Take care, guys.